Michael Gomez, and I'm a real estate broker and an investor here in Nashville, Tennessee.
And I'm Seth Mosley, Grammy Award-winning songwriter and real estate investor.
We host a monthly meetup in Middle Tennessee for anyone who wants to build passive income, not only for retirement, but for today.
On the first Wednesday of every month, we bring in an expert from every area of investing to help you with things like finding deals, getting your financing locked in, asset protection, every kind of investing, so much more.
Our videos are all about delivering that content to you.
Go to musicandmoneyig.com for more info on our free monthly events. Hit subscribe on the page so you don't miss any awesome content, and hit that like button if you like it.
Don't let all the flair of my jacket distract you.
Here's the content.
So I didn't come in with a fancy PowerPoint or a pre-scripted presentation because I wanted to get a chance to know you a little bit. Take advantage of the fact we have a small room. Didn't realize we're going to be out there on Facebook. Hi, everybody. But I'm going to be mostly talking to the folks that are here in the room. So let me just tell you a little bit about me so you kind of understand who I am, where I come from, and then we'll kind of get the thing opened up. I'm so curious about the kind of people that get up in this kind of weather and come to a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. Like, you pretty motivated people. And so I guess I'm pretty motivated too, because I had to get on an airplane last night and fly in, got in about 11 o'clock and, got up this morning and I'm here with you and I'm happy to be here. I want you to know that. I have a great time getting out and meeting people. Anybody listen to the show? Do we have any listeners in the show? Okay, good. So a few people who maybe know my voice from having listened to me. And so that's been fun. So I'm here, I guess I'm here to talk about sales and marketing. Which kind of sounds weird, but I think you'll find out in life we're all in sales, right? Anybody's ever looked for a job, asked for a date, tried to get a kid to toe the line, on and on and on and on. The ability to persuade somebody to see things your way is really a skill set. And I started out life really, and some people who know me would say I'm still this way, very shy, socially awkward, and just really struggled in relationships. And it was, my ambition, my desire to do something with my life drove me. It's what drives you, right? Of all the things you could do on a Wednesday morning, you come here because presumably wherever you are in life is not the ultimate destination you're aiming at. And so you're working at getting someplace else. So there's a gap between where you are today and where you want to be. And that's true for all of us. And we probably all know that in order to get there, we're going to have to take action. And our motto at the Real Estate Guys is education for effective action. How many of you have ever spun your wheels? Gone around in a circle? Yeah. Sometimes we just start moving without aiming, and then, we end up wherever we end up. Sometimes, serendipity, fate, providence shines on us, and we end up buying Bitcoin at $4. And some of us don't. Right? And you're like, wow, does the guy who bought it at $4 and now, it gets to be $15,000 or $20,000, is he smarter than the guy who didn't? I don't know. I heard Donald Trump speak once at a conference way before he was president. He was just Donald Trump, the ultimate real estate guy. And he said that, he listed all his secrets for success. And one of them is you got to be lucky. There's some people in, life that are just have some luck. All right, well, then there's a guy like, I can't remember, I think it's Les Brown talks about, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. In other words, be prepared. Better to have an opportunity and better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And so a lot of it's about being prepared. So anyway, I started out life, I got married. My wife is back there. There she is. She loves it when I draw attention to her. So she came with me. We're going to be married 40 years this year. That's amazing, right? This is a class on sales, I'm just saying. So, we started dating in high school. And I walked into my first day of class, my junior year in high school. I walked in, and what do you do when you're a 16-year-old kid, right? You walk in a classroom, you look around for the cutest girl. And I found the cutest girl, and I went and sat next to her, and so here we are, all these years later. We got married right out of high school, and I didn't know anything. And I tried to go to college, and I hated it. It was too slow for me. And I was ambitious, but I didn't know what to do. And just by the luck of the draw, I ended up, my uncle was a salesman. And I was depressed. I'd gone to work at Hewlett-Packard. You guys know who Hewlett-Packard is, right? Do you know what a material handler is? So my very first job was a material handler. And so my job was to get up at 6 in the morning, show up and punch my time clock at 6:30 in the morning with my little black lunchbox with the thermos in the head at the top. Remember that, Sharon? And she'd make me sandwiches, and I would go to work, and I'm 18 years old. And I'm hanging out with these people that have been doing the same job that I'm doing for 20, 30 years. And I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, if this is my life, I'm going to kill myself. It was so depressing. And so I would go look at the board where they posted the job openings, and it would say, to go from material handler 1, which my job was to move a box from here to there, or from there to here, or from there to here, or here to there. And that's all I did all day long. Count keycaps, little keycaps, and count them in a tube to make sure that all the ones they shipped actually came in. So I would do that, and I would get so depressed. So I'd go look at this thing, and I'd say, okay, so in order to go from material handler 1, which is the lowest level it's like right above amoeba in the corporate chain. And so to go from material handler 1 to material handler 2 took 2 years of experience. And to go from material handler 2 to material handler 3 took 2 more years of experience. And then you could become a lead or a supervisor, and that took 2 more years of experience. I mapped the whole thing out because you guys know about flow charts and spreadsheets. And I figured I could be 1,200 years old before I could ever get a chance to be a division manager. And the guy that was a division manager was my hero because he made $50,000 a year. I thought, my God, if I could ever make $50,000 a year, why would I ever need to make any more money than that? And so I'm just depressed. So we decided to go down to Southern California and go to Disneyland and Magic Mountain and ride roller coasters because we used to like to ride roller coasters. And my uncle lived down there. And my uncle, my dad was only 20 when he had me, and my uncle was 8 years his junior. So he was only 12 years older than I was. And so I'm like, 18 years old, and he's 30 years old. And he's there, and he's got a Porsche. He's got a big 2-story house with a swimming pool, horses in the backyard, beautiful wife. And I'm thinking, what do you do? How can I be you? And he was a salesman. And he says, if you'll move down here, come to work with me, I'll teach you how to do it. Great. I didn't even know what the industry was. It was office supplies. He sold office supplies. Great. I don't care. I used to say, I'll shovel horse manure for $100,000 a year. I don't care. I'll do anything. I just want to be successful. I thought making money was successful. That was the level of my aspiration. I two-step. This is a lesson now because I'm not just rambling. There's stuff in here. You just got to dig, right? But a lot of people two-step their life. A lot of people go out and they say, okay, if I could just make enough money, then I can be happy. And that's a mistake. What you want to do is you want to figure out how you want to live and design a business around that so you get paid to live how you want to live. You don't want to live to get paid. You want to get you don't want to anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. 8 o'clock in the morning in Nashville. What can I tell you? So anyway, I did. So we were married, 10 months, and she's a little Italian gal from a big Italian family and very, very tight with her family, and she follows me on this little adventure, and we go down to Southern California. And I end up in Southern California, and of course, I have no job skills, so guess where I ended up? In the warehouse as a material handler, but instead of counting keycaps for Hewlett-Packard, now I was counting pencils for the company that became Office Depot. And so that was my job. But I had an advocate in the office. So now I had a relationship. I had no relationship at Hewlett-Packard. And so with my uncle in the office, he would pull me into the sales meetings, and he would get me into the network of people with the people I needed to be around. He'd coach me up on how to dress, on how to talk. He taught me to tie my tie. He told me it's important to shave every day, not every third day. Back then, today it's, cool to not shave, but, and always had a tie on. And so, it changes, right? But he taught me how to fit into the culture of the world that I wanted to be in, not the world that I was in. And eventually it was really interesting because the people in the warehouse didn't like me. They resented me because they felt like I was different. I was favored. I had an advantage. I did. But, when you have an advantage in life, what do you do with it? You take it. I took it. And so eventually I ended up getting out into the office and customer service and order desk. And then ultimately he and I and a partner of his started our very first business. So I'm 18 years old, just I think maybe almost 19, and started a business. The other thing that happened is we went down and we moved into an apartment on Huntington Beach, brand new apartment building, three bedroom. I think it was two or three bedroom. I don't even remember. $365 a month, and it was only like 2 miles from the beach on Huntington Beach. So that's how old we are. And so I'm there, and I'm living. If you know the geography in Southern California, the beach cities are all kind of in a line. And so we were living in Huntington Beach, and I would go up to Long Beach, which was a couple beaches up, to work, and then I would come back. And my uncle says, "You're crazy because you're paying rent." He says, "You should move way out here in a little place called Rancho Cucamonga," which was nothing back then, "and buy a house." And so I didn't know. I just went out. We went and looked at some houses, walked in. Nice person says, "Sign here, press hard." I did. We borrowed money from my wife's grandmother for our little down payment for our $72,000 house. And now there I am. I'm a homeowner. And one of my favorite things is, the solicitors come through the neighborhood. They knock on the door. And I open the door and they go, "Is your mom and dad home?" I'm like, "Dude, it's my house. Get off my property." So I'm 19 years old, I'm a homeowner, and I'm a business owner. A year later, I got out of the business. I put $500 to get into the business. I got out of the business for $5,000. And then we bought the house for $72,000 and sold it a year later for $89,000. And so that's when I discovered a couple things in life I discovered. One is I discovered the power of a mentor. My uncle was my mentor. He mentored me. So instead of wasting a bunch of time figuring things out that took people years to figure out, I'd already figured out how to buy a home and start a business before I was 20 years old. I got out of the office and into sales, suit and tie, going out doing business without anything that even remotely resembled a college degree.
Hey, Michael, I found out about a way that you can store cash long-term in a place that's not a bank, that protects you from creditors, and that grows tax-free so you can have massive wealth for your retirement. Does that sound interesting to you?
It does. You mean like besides a bank in Switzerland?
Besides a bank in Switzerland.
Yes.
And I want to introduce you to my friend,
Tom Lonnie.
Well, you already know him. We know him because
Tom's
he's
awesome.
the sponsor of the Nashville Investors Podcast and helps our investors put their money in a safe place long-term and to be able to reinvest it in assets just like real estate and many things that you're already investing in. So
I love
you can
it.
check him out at stressfreeplanning.com, and he will teach you the bulletproof wealth concept. That's Tom Lonnie at stressfreeplanning.com.
It was amazing. I mean, I remember one time we had this one situation where we were doing this deal, and the deal was falling apart, and there was $20,000 profit. Now, you're talking back then, a house was $70,000. $20,000 on a deal that's falling apart. That's a crisis. That was a major stressful deal. And the other partner was 36 years old at the time, and my uncle couldn't get involved in the situation for whatever reason, and so he had me call this other guy, Gary, Chuck Gary, yeah. My uncle's name is Gary, but we always called him Chuck because his other friend was Gary, but his real name was Lee. So it's weird. But anyway, so I called this guy, 36 years old. I'm 19 or 20 years old, and I said, "We got this problem." He couldn't figure it out. And then I figured it out and saved the deal. I went, wow, I can do this. Now, I didn't have any formal sales training at the time, but what I realized is that when there's a problem, whatever the problem is, the person on the other side has needs and wants, desires, goals, and objectives. Needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives, NWDGO. And if you can help them solve the problem in a way that solves your problem, you have the quintessential win-win. Well, I didn't understand any of that, but I figured it out because I was learning sales by osmosis. My uncle is a great sales guy. I don't know that he ever had any formal training, but he's great. And so I learned the same way most of you learn how to speak English or whatever your native language is. You guys look like you're all English speakers native. But, nobody sits you down in a classroom and teaches you. You learn it by being in the environment. And so I was learning things by being in these environments. So it was another thing I learned in life is it's very important to put yourself in the right environments. Of course, you guys are doing this. This is what Seth came out of the Summit at Sea, which was this ridiculous, amazing environment where you with all these high-powered investors, these thought leaders for a week. It's like going to summer camp for, adults. It was investors. It was ridiculous. And he came out of that and he realized, wow, I have to find a way to create that where I live so I can have more of this in my life, right? Because that's what happens. And that's what my partner Robert and I figured out. We figured out that the best way for us to be around great people was to create environments that attracted great people, and then we would have the opportunity to be around them. And that's what the Summit has become for us. We're doing our 16th annual Summit at Sea coming up in April. And we've got Robert Kiyosaki coming back for like the 5th time. We don't pay any of these guys. Kim Kiyosaki just committed yesterday, so she's coming back for the 2nd time. We're very excited about that. That's news, right, Gina? So that's exciting. So Kim's coming. We got G. Edward Griffin, who wrote a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. If you haven't read that book and you want to understand the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is the most powerful institution on earth. And if you watch the financial markets, everybody hangs on every word that comes out of the Fed's mouth. So we got G. Edward Griffin coming, Chris Martenson from Peak Prosperity, Peter Schiff, just a whole bunch of people. Well, so, I'm kind of skipping. Oh, Tom Hopkins. I'll tell you a Tom Hopkins story in just a minute. Anyway, so we created those environments. And so the lesson for all of you is how important it is to not only put yourself in environments, but given the opportunity to create the environment. Because positioning is really important in persuasion. So sales is about persuasion. And persuasion is about positioning. So think about it this way. If right now some homeless guy came in the door, not this gentleman, but some homeless guy, all mottled beard and smelly and drool and just like bad, and said, hey, everybody, I think you should buy Bitcoin and sell gold. How many of you, we kick him out, right? This is a private meeting, get out of here. If Warren Buffett walked in the room and said, hey, everybody, I think you ought to sell Bitcoin and buy gold or whatever I just said, how many of you would take notes? Same words, exact same message. The difference was his positioning. Now, I don't know how you feel about Donald Trump, but Donald Trump's a master marketer, a master brander, and he really understands how to sell. And he understands the power of his brand so much so that he can say crazy things and get away with it. So one time he said, I could go out here and shoot somebody in New York and nobody would care. Remember him saying that? The point he was making is his brand had become so powerful that he could say almost anything, and because he was him, people would listen. That was the point he was trying to make. So Seth has created this environment, and so when Seth is in the front of the room in an environment like this, whoever has the microphone, whoever has the front of the room has everybody's attention. That's positioning. And so when you create a room where you're the guy, you have better positioning than the people that are just sitting in the stage, right? So if you want to have an opportunity to create a room full of people, build your brand, build your network, if you have the opportunity to take the things that you're learning and create an environment, and if you build the environment big enough, you'll begin to attract people who want to get in front of your group. That's all we do at the Real Estate Guys. That's our business. Very simple. We just two guys with microphones, we start talking, and we put it out there, and all of a sudden 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people listen to each episode. It's crazy. And so then I can go call these amazing people like Steve Forbes, Donald Trump, Herman Cain, and say, hey, you want to be on our radio show? And what do they say? Yes. They don't say yes because they want to be around me. They don't even know who I am. But they look us up on iTunes, or we show them our download stats, and they're like, wow, if I talk on your radio show, 50,000 people are going to hear my voice. I want to do that. So now all of a sudden we start to become powerful. We start to become influential. We start to have the ability to have gravitational pull. When you build a strong enough brand, you have gravitational pull. So I'll give you an example. Where's Billy? Billy Brown? There he is, Billy Brown. So we do the Summit at Sea. We put our podcast out into the cyberspace, and a guy named Seth Mosley hears it. And he decides just out of the blue to come on the Investor Summit at Sea. We don't even know who he is. And he gets so inspired, he decides to come back and start this group. We don't know anything about it. And then Billy Brown decides to come to the event. I don't even know how you got here, but you're here. And through that, you hear about us, and you come to our Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar. And so Billy then has to go through this whole process where Stephanie screens you and does a background check, all that stuff, right? And then you get to talk to me on the phone, because you don't get to talk to me unless you go through all that. You don't know that we do that to you, but that's how it works, okay? And then you talk to me. So you're like a salmon swimming upstream, right, trying to get into a conversation with me because you perceive, I think rightly so, that we have a network and a brand and a way that we could help you with your business. And you're looking for a way to add value so we can have a win-win, which is fabulous. What I'm saying is, how much work did I have to do to make all that happen? At some point, if you build your brand and you build your network, you achieve what I call gravitational pull. And deals and money and people come to you. You just put yourself out there and they come. And so at the Secrets of Successful Syndication, the 2-day event that we do, where we teach people how to go out and build a business raising money, private capital, to do more and better real estate deals. And there's a lot of reasons, maybe I'll digress and talk about that for just a minute, to do that. But I do a segment, one of my favorite segments, I call it the most important segment of the 2 days, is build your brand, build your network. Explain to people how you go from being a shy, introverted nobody without a formal education to getting into a position where you get to hang around with some of the most notable people in the industry, and people like Billy Brown swim upstream to try to get into a conversation with you to bring you deals. How does that happen? Well, you build your brand and you build your network. And going back to what I said earlier, the idea that you can build a business around what you enjoy and who you are and what your natural inclinations are, that's the secret. It's only work. People say, oh, Russ, you're a workaholic. Well, you could look at it that way, because I get up every day and I work. I love to work. I don't set an alarm. I do set an alarm as a backup, but probably only 1 day or 2 days a month does it actually go off. Most of the time I get up. This morning, just my eyes popped open at 5:20. That's just what happens. Most every day in my time zone, I pop open about 4:20, 4:30, 5 o'clock. Sometimes I decide to sleep in if I'm not feeling well. But my point is, I'm excited to get up and go to work. I like working because I like what I do. I like who I work with. I like the things I get to do. I get up every morning and I read for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I read the news. I read books. Things that are interesting to me. And then I take the things that I learn and I talk about them on a podcast. I write about them in a newsletter, and I get in front of rooms full of people and I get to talk about the things I want to talk about, the things that interest me. And a funny thing happens when you do that. You attract all these people who are interested in the same things you're interested in. And if you have positioning, pretty soon you have influence. And if you have influence and begin to build a crowd, a following, a herd, whatever you want to call it, then eventually you get gravitational pull. Build your brand, build your network. And so it all started for me with sales skills. And so I want to come back and tell you a little bit about the rest of the story. And I'm hoping I'm not boring you guys to death, right? That's not the point. There's a lot of lessons in here. A lot to get from wherever you are. And some of you, I don't know anything about you. Some of you could be, highly successful, very influential in your community, but I'm making the assumption that the reason you're here is because wherever you are, there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. So you're still pushing, you're still growing. So I'm, without having a chance to know that much about you, I asked Seth ahead of time, who knows all of you, what do you think this group needs? And he says, well, I think sales and marketing. I'm like, okay, it's an investing group, but I think I can make the argument, and I'm trying to make the argument, that if you have sales skills, everything else you need in life you can attract. Everything. If you don't have sales skills, then you're running around with a resume begging for a job. You're running around lonely begging for a date. You're, struggling with kids and people that aren't, fitting into your vision or doing what you need to have done. It's just nothing but problems. But when you have sales skills, you can resolve conflict because you can get heart to heart. You can understand what somebody else needs and how to position yourself in a way not to be an obstacle or a threat, but to be an aid. Billy and I are working on a win-win. We're working on trying to create a way that we can do business together that's mutually beneficial. And you may think, well, yeah, duh, that's so obvious. It is, but you'd be shocked how many people start out their emails with, I just wanted, I want, I need, hey, do me a favor. You guys get those emails? I don't read them. You want to get my attention, don't lead with your need, because I don't care. What is it? Who does everybody care about most? Be honest. Themselves, right? Well, I mean, what's in it for me? That's what I want to know. How can you help me? And so if you position whatever you're doing and how can I help you? So I'm here, I hope, to help you. And so when I was, I did that deal with my, when I went down to Southern California, got out of the business with $5,000, got out of the house with, $15,000. So there I am, 19, 20 years old with $20,000, which again was a lot of money back then. And so we took 6 weeks off. We had a great Christmas. I bought a brand new Camaro. I mean, it was fun. And within, like 8 weeks, the money was all gone. And so I didn't understand anything about money management and investing back then. But, I certainly understood about mentorship. I understood about the importance of sales skills. And I discovered a concept called equity. I found out that we made more money in the equity in the business and the equity in the house than both of us did working together full time. Because I don't know what it was back then, like $4 an hour, what we were working. I mean, it was like pathetic. So we weren't making very much money, but we made a lot of money by building things, by owning things. And so that was a great lesson. So we left Southern California because I was a train wreck. I grew up in Cupertino, California before Apple, when it was just all orchards. It was just a sleepy little town. And then I went down to Tinseltown and just lost it. But deciding to get out of that scenario, came back up to Northern California, $20,000 richer, which seemed like a lot of money. We had a good time for a little while, and I had to settle down. And I went and looked for a sales job in office supplies because it's the only thing I knew how to do. And so I was applying, and I wrote out, I didn't know anything. So I wrote out this resume that was like 4 pages long. And this big cover letter that was like 2 pages long. And I'm trying to get a job at Xerox to be in sales because I heard they had good, I just thought it was a good place to be. And it was a disaster. So I went and hired a resume coach who showed me how to write an effective resume. She coached me up on the interview, and I ended up getting a job with a different company. And then I learned again, what a shortcut. Right? Go find somebody who is an expert and have them teach you how to do it instead of me sitting there trying to figure it out on my own. It's amazing how many times I've learned that lesson, how many times I forgot the lesson and end up, sitting there trying to solve a problem, wasting so much time trying to solve a problem somebody else has solved. So I ended up going from that to, I took this job at this company, and they sent me to a sales training class. And the guy taught me, Bob Vino was his name, and he taught me how to get a great referral letter, why it was important to have a referral letter. He gave me 4 questions to ask all my happy clients, that if I asked them those questions and they wrote me a letter and answered those questions in their own words, I would have a great sales letter. You want to know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. I've remembered them all my life. This has been 38 years ago. Number 1 is, how do you feel about doing business with me or our company or our product or service? Number 2 is, specifically, how have you benefited? Number 3 is, how strongly would you recommend other people do business with me? And number 4 is, would you be willing to serve as a reference? And if a person will write you a letter or give you a video or send you an email and answer those questions in their own words, you will have a fabulous testimonial. And then I would get them. Back then, we didn't have, audio, video, all the stuff. We had email. We didn't have that. So I would get, on their letterhead, and I would have them not date it. And I had this big binder full of all these letters that were timeless. Wow. I took that one thing, and I've shared that at our sales training, and people have used it. We have built $1 million businesses around just having other people express themselves properly in terms of why they're excited to work with me and get that social influence working for you. And so I did okay at that company because I took a lot of the LA hustle that I learned from my uncle, and I worked really hard. We used to do some crazy stuff. And then I ended up getting recruited over to another company. And it was like, to me, I went from a company that was where I really didn't fit in culturally. It was a bunch of old guys that like to go down and drink at lunch every single day. And so I got into that for a little while and quickly realized that wasn't going to take me where I wanted to go in life. And then I ended up getting recruited by this guy. I was 23 years old at the time. He was 5 years older than me, 28 years old. He drove a Ferrari 308 GTS, red one, just like Magnum PI, if anybody's old enough to remember that show with Tom Selleck. And so he recruited me, and he was a big believer in personal development. And so he would send me to these training classes. So he brought in a guy from Xerox who taught needs satisfaction selling. And so Xerox has some of the best sales training. If you ever get a chance to hear Robert Kiyosaki talk about his career, he realized that in order to be successful, he needed to master sales. And so he went to work for Xerox, not for the job, not for the income. He went for one reason and one reason only, and that was to learn sales. And so that's what he did. So I got the same training, but not from Xerox directly, from a guy who used to be a trainer at Xerox that went rogue and started his own company and came and taught. And so it was excellent training. A lot of the training and teaching that I do today is based on some of that content. The concept of shotgunning, where you just barf all your features at somebody instead of being a target and finding out exactly what it is that they want and need, and then positioning your features in the context of their needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives, so that you don't have to talk for 45 minutes. You can talk for 10 and hit right at the heart of their decision-making process. So it's a skill. Then I got a chance to go to a training program with IBM. So again, just to showcase how old I am, I was in the office products business, and IBM had just come out with electronic typewriters. This was cutting edge. So we went from the old, rat-tat-tat to the electromechanical with the little ball, and, it was still rat-tat-tat, and these things weighed like 40 pounds. And then we got these plastic, very quiet, sleek electronic typewriters. This was before word processors. And so IBM was selling these, and because we were an office products dealer and I was one of the top salespeople, I was one of a small group of people they sent to a one-week camp. And what we did is we learned these advanced techniques. They would teach them to us in the morning. They would videotape us in role play in the afternoon, and the next morning we would get up and they would critique us. And it was brutal having to sit there and watch yourself on video with all of your peers, and you're just getting crucified. Now, my partner, Robert, he's got the radio background. I don't have a radio background. If you ever hear Robert speak, you can tell the minute he opens his mouth, you're like, oh my God, that guy was born to be on the radio. Not me. So anyway, Robert, when he was in high school or college radio, disciplined himself to listen to himself and get the feedback and improve. And so that's what they were doing for us. So I did that for a week, and that was fabulous. What I realized is that when you practice, when you put yourself in a situation where the pressure is on, that when you go out in the real world and you have to deal with people who don't know what technique you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to be saying, they don't know anything. It was so easy. Going out in a corporate setting and dealing with these buyers was so easy after spending a week with all my peers looking at myself on video. And so there was a lesson in that too, just about being prepared. And then the third thing that happened to me from a sales training perspective is, and this isn't actually in chronological order, but this is all kind of in the same time frame. I ended up struggling. Some guy came to me and goes, hey, have you ever heard of this guy? It was Tom Hopkins. And I said, no. He goes, well, you should listen to these tapes. So he loaned me a cassette tape series, Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling. Anybody familiar with that? Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling? Excellent. So I I think I was 25 years old at the time, and I'm dubbing the tapes, right? I'm too cheap to buy them. I dubbed the tapes. And so I would listen to them over and over and over again as I rode around in the car. And one of the things I learned about learning sales is a language. And the best way to learn a language is to listen to it. You can read a book, but it's not the same. The best way to learn it is to listen to it and then go speak it. And so that was very cool. So anyway, I took those 3 sets of training and a couple other things that I had done. And then I just went out and I started working. And within like a year or two, I was the number 2 producer in our company out of, 25 or 30 sales reps. And the guy had us all come in to give our presentations on video so he could critique them. And I did mine, and I got done. And he said to me, that was perfect. I only have one criticism. You preempted every single objection. You answered everything before I could ask it. It was so completely thorough, I can't engage. And so one of the things in sales, when you're out there negotiating a deal, or you're trying to recruit somebody onto your team, or you're trying to lead your team or persuade them, you have to leave a little bit of room for engagement. People are afraid that when the other person is talking, they're out of control, but really just the opposite is true. So in sales, in deal making, you want to ask questions and listen. And then when you do your explanation, you have to leave enough that they can engage. If they ask you questions, even if they object, they're engaged, they're interested. If there's no conversation, there's no deal. Does that make sense? That's gold right there. Most amateur salespeople just talk. Big mistake. Big mistake. You learn to listen. And so mastering the art of questioning is a big part of it. And so anyway, so I did that, and then I got big for my britches. I said, wow, I'm now this big guy in this tiny company, and I'm making $150,000 a year, whatever it was. There's a lot of money back then. I thought, if I looked around and I found people who were in the insurance business who were making $1 million a year. There's nobody I could see in the office products business making $1 million a year. So I'm going to go in the insurance business, because if I can be top banana in the office products business, I could be top banana in the insurance business. So I went into the insurance business, and I just failed. I was horrible. And that's where I learned that just because you can make a lot of money, if you don't like it, if you don't enjoy the work, if you don't enjoy the subject matter, if you don't enjoy the people, if you don't enjoy doing the things you need to be doing, you're not going to do them. You're going to do a minimum amount to make the minimum of what you need so you don't starve, and then you're going to go find other things to do that you're actually interested in. So if you find yourself procrastinating, if you find yourself not doing the things you need to be doing in whatever it is you're doing today, then I would spend less time trying to figure out how to be more self-disciplined and more organized and more motivated inside of what you're doing. I would step outside of that and think outside the box. So I had an experience where, again, how old I am, I had a Sony Walkman with a little, metal band and little foam ear pads. You guys remember those, right? And so my wife and I were, I think, 4 kids in. I think Christina, four children in to our baby making, which we made a lot of babies. It was fun. And so I was struggling. And my oldest daughter, our oldest daughter, was a national champion acrobat. And so we were at our very first national event in Winter Park, Florida, and all I could afford for my family was Motel 6. And we couldn't even afford to eat out. So we went down to the local Kmart or whatever, I don't remember what it was, and bought a little $1.99 styrofoam cooler. We filled it up with ice. We bought some chicken. I bought like a $10 hibachi barbecue, and we would sit out there and barbecue chicken and just eat, and the kids would play in the pool. And the kids, they don't care. They don't know. And I felt like the lowest life form on earth. I felt like the biggest loser ever. And I brought some tapes that another friend of mine had loaned to me, Tony Robbins, who's the same age I am, At that time, I was probably, I don't know how old I was, maybe 28, 29. Anyway, when he was 24, he created the Unlimited Power series. Anybody ever listen to Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power? All right. Excuse me. So I ended up sitting there, and everybody's asleep. The kids are on the floor. Sherry's got the bed. I'm just sitting there, and I'm just stressed out, feeling like the biggest loser on earth. And I'm listening to these in the middle of the night. And the way Tony would do it is he would give you something, and then he'd say, okay, stop right now. Stop the tape right now. Write it. Do it now. And so, okay, so I did. And one of the things he said was, he goes, if you're stuck, then just pretend like there's no limits. Just design your life. Start thinking about what you want as though nothing you're attached to today you're attached to. Nothing at all. Just completely free yourself from all your obligations. So I did, and I wrote it all out, and then I had this aha moment, and the aha moment was I needed to get out of the insurance business. Well, I had recruited like 80 people. I had signed a lease on a building. My wife's cousin was my business partner. I mean, I had major obligations. And I had to go back and face all those people and say, guys and gals, you know what? I need to leave. I need to quit. I know I sold you this dream. I told you I'd be your leader, but I can't do it. I need to call it, because if I keep going the way we're going, you're not going to get what you need because I can't deliver it, and my family and my life is going to be a mess. So I'm sorry. And I walked. And it was great. And I went back with my tail between my legs, back to the guy in the red Ferrari at the office products company, and I asked for my old job back, where I was top of the heap. Now I started at the very bottom. And he had this great thing. If you own a business, any business owners here? Got people on your team, salespeople or whatever. Every year we had to come in. He would sit down and he would say, "Okay, Russ." He'd say 3 things to me. Tell me your goal. Show me your plan. How can I help? That was awesome, because having a goal without a plan, it's great. And I want to make $100,000 a year. Great. Show me your plan. How are you going to get from here in January to there by December? What's the plan? Wow. Okay. And then once I'd show the plan, he'd say, how can I help? He wouldn't critique the plan. He let me own it. All he wanted to, he put me in charge of my own life. Right. Dave and Gina are in our Inner Circle program. We coach students in how to create a syndication business. And we don't paint little yellow feet on the ground, do we? We leave this gigantic gap that your brain, your creativity, your ambition has to fill. And if you can't do it, you don't belong in the business. And we take it very seriously, because when you go raise money from other people, if you're not committed, if you're not willing to stay on the job and push the thing over the line, then you need to not be in the business. It's you can't take other people's life energy stored up in their life savings and put it into something you're not dedicated to. I found that out the hard way, because we did some of that. We ended up getting into deals and markets and all kinds of stuff. So anybody that gets around us, we talk a lot about personal investment philosophy, personal syndication philosophy. We teach very specifically how to find your sweet spot. What am I passionate about? What am I good at? And, what can I monetize? What can I make money at? What can I put a business model on? That comes right out of Jim Collins' Good to Great in the hedgehog concept. And so, so I ended up quitting. I went back to the office products business. A guy asked me those questions, and I said to him, George, just believe in me, because I was so beaten down. I mean, I left like I was walking on water. I was the man. Everybody wished me well. They knew I was going to be a big success in insurance. 2.5 years later, I came back. I was in debt. I was broke. I was crushed. It was terrible. And now I had all these children, and I was just like losing it. Like, how am I gonna take care of my family? And George did exactly what I needed, which was he believed in me. And then the other thing is I started looking at where I was at, and I realized I had some weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses, I was very task-oriented, very driven to do things, but I wasn't very people-oriented. The other thing is I was a planner, so I'd plan and think and plan and think and plan and think. And how much money does planning and thinking make you? Not a lot, right? You got to do it, but at some point you got to just go out there and take some risk, right?
Hey, Mike, do you remember the day that my second baby was due and we were closing on a house and we didn't know how we were going to close on it? And then Somebody came to our house to help us close on it.
How could I forget?
It was a good day, and that was because of John and Laura Perry at Homeland Title.
I am telling you, they're both attorneys, and they're an authority when it comes to real estate law here in Tennessee. You can call them anytime. They're never going to charge you for a quick phone call regarding anything that you need to do, even estate planning they do. But really where they focus in is investment properties, regular primary residences, and anything to do with that. They'll go to your house to close.
Yeah, so check them out, John and Laura Perry, and the reasons you just listed are why they are official sponsors of the Nashville Investors Podcast. They help many of our investors out, and they can help you out as well, too. So check them out, John and Laura Perry, HomelandTitleTN.com. That's HomelandTitleTN.com.
Right. Tom Brady, I don't post on Facebook very often, but today I kind of figured out how to do it. But Tom Brady said something that I thought was brilliant right after the Super Bowl. He says, check it out, losing sucks. Wow, that's brilliant. But even more brilliant was when he said, but if you want to be world champs, you have to play this game. See, if you want to win, you have to risk losing. If you want to make the sale, you have to risk the no, the rejection. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to risk going broke because it's all on you. So I thought it was brilliant. It inspired me. It made me realize why I am the way I am. I was willing to overcome my shyness. I was willing to overcome my lack of education. I was willing to overcome all my personality flaws because I just wanted to try to find a way to win. And I realized that I couldn't get there on my own. And so I'm back in this office products company, and I ended up, through my insurance company, had recruited a guy onto my insurance team, and he also was struggling. And so I brought him over to the office products group, and he came before I did, and he was doing great. And then I came back, and he was way up there, even though I was the man when I brought him in, and I'd left to go conquer the world in insurance, and I came back with my tail between my legs, and he was way up here. But he remembered me helping him, and so we partnered up, and then we went on. And anyway, long story short is, within a couple of years, I was back at the top of the leadership. I was the top earner in the company, but what I learned was I spent 10 years trying to figure myself out. I didn't know how to ask the good questions. Today, we put you through the grill, right? I mean, we give you a whole list of hard questions you got to work on to answer about who you are, what you want, what you really want, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. What is your personal mission, your personal vision, your values? Who are you? What do you like to spend your time with? Who do you like to spend your time with? What topics interest you? What lifestyle do you want to live? And then once you get that, now how do we put a business model on that so that living that life monetizes? If you can solve that problem, you have a chance to build a life you're going to love living. Now, our youngest son went to college. He was the only one that went to college because he was a great athlete. And we thought, well, let's see how far his football skills will take him. And when he got out of college, I said, Sean, look, here's the deal. Most of your peers went into college asking themselves this question: what can I do? What can I learn to do to make money? And then when they get to the end of the educational rainbow with their diploma in hand, they're going to ask themselves now, who can I work for to make money? How can I make money? And sadly, they're going to find the answer. They're going to go out, and the answer is going to be get a job, and they're going to take their fancy new resume or their fancy new degree, and they're going to put together their little resume, and they're going to go out there, and they're going to make their very first sale, which is they're going to land that job. And then they're going to start getting that paycheck, and it's going to be more money than they've ever had. They go from starving student to now I'm making money. And all the credit companies come in to leech on that, right? Isn't that what they do? They all come in. They get that young person early. Let's get them enslaved to debt as quickly as we possibly can. And so they give them credit lines. And so the kid goes down, he gets his credit card, and then he gets his car loan, and then he gets his home loan, and then he has the pretty wife or whatever, and then they have children, and now they're just doing the thing, and they're living the life, and then a little while later they get the boat, and it's great, right? Until they're about 35, 40 years old, and they wake up one day and they're like, wow, I still got another 25 years to go. I don't really like what I do, but I'm so committed. And so now they watch TV and they look at that little green line and think, man, I just follow that little green line, 25 years. Or the Prudential commercial says, imagine if you could just get up every day and get paid to do what you want to do. And what if that person you worked for was you? Well, that can happen for you if you put your money in our financial products, and so 25 years from now, you can have that life. I'm like, hey, why wait? Why not have that right now? Why not build a life right now that you want to live, that pays you to live the way you want to live? So I said, Sean, look, if you will go to work on asking a better question, you're going to find a better answer. Ask yourself this: what can I build that will pay me to live how I want to live? Which presupposes you know how you want to live, and then number two, you understand how to build something. If you master those two skills, you have a much better chance of creating a life you're going to actually enjoy. I said, but don't take my word for it. Come on the Summit at Sea. Hang out with all these amazing people. I'm going to introduce you to my network, and you can look at what people are doing for a living and how they like it and how they live and how much money they make and what they and you just figure it out. And so he's still working through that process, but he's still fairly entrepreneurial. And then I said, and the thing is, if you want to make the dream come true, there's one skill that you absolutely have to have. I call it the essential life skill. If you can learn how to do this one thing well, everything else you want to have or do in life, you can have. If you don't master this one skill, everything else in life you want to have or do is going to be so much harder, so much more dependent upon other people. Your ticket to freedom doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. Doesn't matter what's happening around you. In 2008, my wife and I and my partner, a lot of us, we got destroyed. We were at the epicenter. I owned a mortgage company. It was making $1 million a year. We had a seminar company. It was making $1 million a year. We had a brokerage company. It was making $1 million a year. We had a book, a TV show, the radio show, a development company. We were crushing it on 12 cylinders. And then 2008 came and the bomb went off in the mortgage business, which was our cash cow. And we were wholly dependent across everything we were doing on credit markets. And when the credit markets stopped, everything died except the rent payment, the payroll, the negative cash flow on mortgages on all these properties that I could no longer sell. And we went from riding high to being at the bottom of the barrel. Home got foreclosed on, cars got dragged away, accounts got seized, creditor judgments, people knocking on our door. I mean, terrible, right? And I'm sure people were looking at me, Russ, why don't you just go get a job? Why don't you just go get a job? Why don't you just give up on this silly dream? Just go get a job. Provide for your family. I guess I could go back to the office products for the third time. No, I'm not going to do that. You know why? Because I've got sales skills. I've got sales skills. So I'm going to figure out what this market needs. We're going to create that or find it, and I'm going to start matching up needs with solutions. And if I can do that, I have a business. And that's what we did. So today, my partners and I are the largest real estate developer in the country of Belize. We don't talk about that on the radio, but it's pretty cool. We just opened in December as a Hilton branded hotel. I wish I could take even this much credit for it. And that's about all the credit I can take. But the gal that is running that, our partner today, was once our employee. And when we went broke, we couldn't afford to pay her. And she was clever enough to ask to become an owner. So she could starve right alongside us. And we had no money. None. We're probably $70 or $80 million into this project right now. Just the other day, we were on TV watching DIY. DIY, do it yourself, DIY network. What was the show called? Building Off the Grid. Building Off the Grid. And it said Beth Clifford and Ken Grissom. I'm like, hey, I know those people. And I watched the whole show, and it was all about our beach club, this amazing, pristine 70 acres on the backside of Ambergris Key. It's like one of the premier beaches in the world and really largely undiscovered. In fact, we took Robert Kiyosaki there in 2012. And after leaving that, he came away, he goes, my God, I've been all over this world. I grew up in Hawaii. I didn't realize any place like this on earth still existed. Remember I told you a little bit about getting lucky? We just ended up in a situation because we were putting ourselves out there where we discovered a guy who knew a guy who brought us into a relationship, and then Kiyosaki decides to come on the 2012 summit, and the guy that controlled this piece of land is a big Kiyosaki fan. He came on, and we made the deal on the ship. We were going down this path 100 miles an hour. My partner Robert comes in and goes, Russ, you know how we were going all the way over here? I go, yeah. He goes, well, I just saw the best real estate deal of my life. We're going over here now. Like, okay, all right. So we did that. And so it was sales skills. We were able to syndicate millions and millions and millions of dollars to get this thing built, even when we barely had any money. Sales skills. And of course, win-win, right? The people who have done the deal have done well. They're very happy. That's what, selling something isn't convincing somebody to do something that's bad for them or taking something from somebody. It is entering into a mutually beneficial exchange. The challenge is figuring out what the other person's need, wants, desires, goals, and objectives are, getting them to open up. And so we did that. The radio show's doing well. We're like close to 10 million downloads now, some ridiculous number. It's crazy. We didn't even know. When we started podcast, I didn't even know what a podcast was. So out of adversity was born opportunity. So it's 2008. We're destroyed. We're struggling. We're trying to figure out, hang on, 2010 or so. 2008, 2009, 2008, our radio show producer comes to us and says, hey, you're on 15 stations nationwide, and I can't sell any advertising because everybody in the space is broke. Great. So if you want to stay on all these radio stations, you're going to have to write a big check. Got no money. He goes, well, what about podcasting? I'm like, what's a podcast? I had no idea. And he told us, and so we started doing that. And then a funny thing happened. One day we were doing an event, and somebody that had actually heard us on a podcast showed up at an event. We went, wow, because everybody else was, because we would go speak at local groups. Right? My partner taught at community college, and I taught for the California Association of Realtors, or GRI program. We would guest speak anywhere anybody would have us. Just anytime we could get in front of a room of people, and we're still like that, right? Obviously, here we are. Anytime we could get in front of people and share, we would go do that. And so we did that. Where was I going? I don't know where I was going with that. Brain fade. Oh yeah, so we started podcasting. Well, then all of a sudden it just started growing. So we couldn't afford to keep these guys on as things continued to deteriorate. And so I had to learn podcasting. I had to learn how to be our webmaster. I had to learn to do all these things that I hated doing. But I did it because I was committed. I knew it was temporary, and here it is all these years later. I'm just finally getting it off my plate. But we would have never podcast. We would have never started podcasting, I don't think. At least we wouldn't have as early as we did, which made us one of the early pioneers in real estate investing podcasting, if it wasn't for the 2008 financial crisis. So the other lesson in life, and a salesperson always has to be optimistic. You always enter into every transaction assuming you can make a deal. You always go into every situation assuming that something good is going to happen. You have to be optimistic all the time. You got to be realistic too, but you got to be optimistic. You got to believe that the odds are in your favor. You have to believe that. And if you tell yourself that, then you go in, you see things. Like, anybody ever looked for a car? Thought, I'm going to get a car. And you start thinking about the kind of car you want, and you start driving around. All of a sudden it seems like, God, the cars are everywhere. Everybody's got one. All of a sudden I think of it and everybody goes out and buys this car. No, they were always there. You just couldn't see them because you weren't acclimated. You weren't what's Robert called it? Reticular activator. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I don't know what that means. But it's the idea that when you're attuned to something, you see things that were there the whole time, but you didn't notice them. So if you want to have opportunity in your life, you have to go out with the belief that it's there. When Robert and I go to a conference, we say these affirmations to ourselves. It's kind of weird. We're driving in the car, heading towards the event. He goes, something good's going to happen here. We're going to meet the right person. Something amazing is going to happen. It's like, great. And so you go into the situation, you start looking around. Where's the amazing thing? Who's the amazing person I'm going to meet? I know they're here somewhere. I've got to find them. So it's a mindset. And then, of course, you go through the process. So anyway, so all of that is just to give you a backdrop on who I am, where I come from, what I do, why I feel like I'm qualified to have an opinion or at least something to say on the topic of building your brand, building your network, sales and marketing. I don't come from a pedigree. I don't have, a brilliant, Harvard or Stanford education. But I know how to start businesses. I know how to grow businesses. I know how to generate revenue. I know how to come back from a disaster. I feel like I can sell myself out of any situation. And I don't consider sales taking or using. I consider it to be a noble profession of diagnosing someone else's needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives, and then prescribing for them a solution that will meet their need. If I am the purveyor of that solution, I have an opportunity to do business. If I am not the purveyor of the solution, I still have an opportunity, but it's different. And the opportunity is that whatever need, want, desire, goal, or objective they have, all of you in this room have things. If I could spend time with each of you, I could pull that out of you and find out that you have a need. When I find out you have a need, I might be able to help you. If I can help you, I can then present my solution to you in the context of your need. You told me you're looking for this in your life because if you had this in your life would be better in this way and you would feel great about it. You told me you were looking to change this in your life because right now your current situation is causing you tremendous pain, and if we could alleviate that pain, you would be able to refocus your life energy on positive outcomes and be happier in your life. Now, I'm not saying I can, but if I could, or if I could find somebody that could help you get this thing that you want and get out of this pain, is there any reason at all you wouldn't be interested? What is a rational person going to say to that question? Well, no, because no means yes, right? When someone knows they're being closed, they want to say no. Let them. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to? No. Great. That's a yes. Yes. Great. Well, I've got good news for you. Hope. I've got good news for you. I think I've got the solution. Let me go do some work, and I'll come back to you. And let me just ask you this question. It's called a trial close. If I come back to you and show you a solution that meets your needs, is there any reason you wouldn't do business with me at that time? Well, no. If you can meet my need, great. Then I'm going to go to work. Now, I've left them with hope. I'm going to go do my homework. Let's say I decide I can't help them, but I know Seth can. So Seth is in whatever business Seth is in, and his product or service or offering can help this person who I've just uncovered this need. I go to Seth. I say, hey, Seth, got this opportunity here for you. Interested? He says, yes. I say, great. I go over here. Hey, person, I've got this person who can help you. Interested? Yes, great. I'm going to put the two of you together. Now, maybe I get something out of it, maybe I don't. Let's assume that I don't get any money out of it. But what did I just do? How does Seth feel about me? Good, right? How does this person I just helped by introducing to Seth, how do they feel about me? Good. So they both have social networks. They both can tell their people that I'm a good guy, that I'm a good guy to know. They could say, hey, why don't you come talk to my people? Great. Happy to. Why don't you do a Facebook Live and I'll pump you out to my whole social network, right? How many of you saw the little video interview I did with Seth? Okay. Like, I don't know, 2,000 views or something like that? Great. Any accountants in the room? I heard we had a CPA. Any accountants? Okay. So then I can say this, and if I'm wrong, nobody knows. So here's the deal. When one company buys another company, they pay for more than just the value of the equipment, the inventory, the receivables, or, the net after the liabilities, all that. They pay a premium over all that. What's that called? Goodwill. Goodwill. And so in any business you're in, your number one job is to build goodwill, because that's where the value is. That's where the equity comes from. Whatever it is that makes people get up, brave the weather, and sit here and listen to a guy like me for however long I talk, is goodwill that Seth has built. And you guys all feel a certain way about Seth. Feel a certain way about Seth. That's goodwill. And now he has influence because he can promote his sponsors. And his sponsors come and say, hey, Seth, I'll help underwrite this thing because I want you to shine the light of your goodwill on me. Right? And that's all it is. And sometimes we make it more complicated. People say to themselves, well, I'm not a salesperson. I wasn't, like that guy, he's a natural salesperson. That Russ Gray, I saw him, I listened to him on the radio, I saw him, I say, he's a natural. My wife is here, she can tell you, natural? No way. No way. No, I got trained. How many of you play a musical instrument? How many of you just picked it up and just played? How many of you got trained? Right? Now, you may have some natural proclivity, but a lot of that is, in my estimation, is interest-driven. Because you like it, you work at it. I don't know anybody that's really great at anything that actually doesn't work. Some people, I guess prodigies or whatever. Singing, that's different, right? I don't care how hard I worked, I could never sing. And you wouldn't want to hear me try, even though I have a microphone right now and it's so tempting. So you can learn to be trained. And let me just give you a little bit of basics. I already gave you a little bit of sales training, but the basic model is this. It's a 3-step process that I teach because, I got taught all these complicated things, and I was like, I used to have to keep these scripts and it was too much for me. And I'm a simple guy. So my thing was this. Number 1, set the table. Get in position. Because remember, positioning is the key to persuasion. If I have great positioning, if I built my brand, if a guy like Seth, who has respect of the room, says nice things about me, by the time I stand here, I already have a reputation, which is great. That means that you're more receptive to anything I might have to say. So number 1 is set the table. Number 2 is touch the heart. The heart. See, the heart, the feelings, the emotion is where motion comes from. You want to get somebody to move from where they are to wherever you're hoping they'll go to do business with you. You've got to move them, and that happens at an emotional level. After you've touched the heart, there's a transition called upsetting the status quo, which is where you get the heart to place the order. That's a transition. It's not one of the 3 steps, but it's an important transition. And then the 3rd step is engage the mind. And engaging the mind is where you get a chance to introduce logically why what the heart has already decided to do makes good sense. Anybody in your life ever decided to do something because you really wanted it and then talked yourself into it? Right? It's like, I've decided I want to do this. And now you have to think of all the good reasons why it's a good thing to do. But you'd already decided what to do. You just needed to convince yourself. Well, it's the same thing. So in a sales situation, you set the table. You set the table with your marketing. You set the table with the way you're introduced, who you're associated with, in terms of how your brand is built. You set the table when you walk in the room. Hi, Joe, Russ Gray. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. I really appreciate it. Look, we've got about an hour together, and during this period of time, I've got some things I'd like to share with you, and I'm sure you've got some things, but I want to make this an absolute home run. So before I say anything, let me just ask you this. What are your goals for the meeting? Now, what have I just communicated to that person? Respect? I've communicated to them that I'm concerned about what they want. I'm not here for myself. I'm here to help them. I've said a lot in 30 seconds. And Dave knows, because every meeting you get on the phone with me, isn't that what I do? It's always the same. Simple formula. And so usually if I've done that well, the person will start telling me what they want. That's the touch the heart phase. Well, I'd like to get this done. I took this meeting because I've got this pain in my life, or I've got this goal in my life. I've got this problem I'm trying to solve. I've got this mountain I'm trying to climb. Great, tell me a little bit more about that. And I'm going to go through a questioning process where the person's talking. I'm not talking. I'm listening. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you desire. Tell me about your goals, your objectives. I'm trying to collect 3 to 5 things I can help him with. And then when he gives me one, I don't go, oh, I got the answer. Oh, pick me. I don't do that. See, Dave, that's interesting. So what I heard you just say is you're interested in this. Why is that? I have to understand why. Why is the key to the heart? Not what he wants, it's why he wants it. The why is everything. He says, well, I really want to buy another campground. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I got one. No. Why is that? Well, if I could get another campground, then I could get economies of scale because I've already got 2 and I could add the 3rd, and now I can bring my costs down and I can have a better training program, benefits for my employees. Oh, and why is that important to you? Oh, because we have this turnover problem, and if we could have a better benefit package, I think we could attract better people and keep better people, and it would improve the bottom line. Oh, and I guess it's pretty obvious having a better bottom line is important, isn't it? Yeah. Why is it important to you, Dave? Well, gosh, if I had a better line, then I could pay off my credit. I wouldn't be so stressed out. My marriage would be better. My kid. See, I'm digging down to why it's important to him as a human being, not as a businessman, as a person. Why is this important to you? Because now I'm going to say, Dave, what I hear you saying is you need this situation to occur. Let's just say, I'm not saying we can, but if we could, now I'm diffusing any agenda I have. It's just hypothetical. If we could do that for you, if I could find a way to help you do that, how would it change your life? Well, and he's going to repeat the stuff that he already said. If he doesn't, I'm going to help him a little bit, pull it out. I'm going to say, and how would you feel about it? How would your life be if all those things happened for you? Oh, wow, that'd be great. Yeah. What if nothing happens? Oh, that would suck. Yeah. Right there is where I just upset the status quo, and the heart says, hello, brain. Yeah, this is heart. You know that wonderful feeling I had just a minute ago where all my problems were solved? Get that feeling back. Now the brain has something to go to work on, solving that problem. So now I got done talking to Dave's heart. I say, okay, Dave, I got some good news for you. I think I can help you. Now I'm going to do a trial close. If I can help you achieve that, is there any reason you wouldn't want to do it? Now I'm trying to flush out the objections. So I really need to talk to my wife. Oh, great. Well, then let's get together with her. Now I'm closing towards the meeting with the other decision maker. Right? Anybody in sales ever gotten all the way down the path with somebody, and then at the very end they're like, okay, now let me check with the boss. Let me check. Dude, that's your fault, right? Because you didn't make sure that you had it all out. So you never play your offer, because your offer is what they want. You've got this solution. You've got the secret sauce. You've got the prescription that's going to give them the happy life. You put it on the table before you've got a commitment from them, you got nothing. You have to hold it back and wait until you get the commitment, flush out the decision maker. You go through this whole process. Now I'm going to talk to the brain. So Dave, okay, what you said was you're looking to accomplish this in your life. So these 3 things. So over here, my offering, here we've got this answer, and this answer works this way, and it produces this result. And this is the result you said you're after. Is that correct? Yeah. So do you see then how this solves that need? Yeah. Is there anything you don't understand? No, I got it. Great. Okay. Check. That's 1. Let's keep going. You also told me you're interested in this. Logic, explanations. That makes sense to you? Yeah. You with me so far? Yeah. Do you see how that works and gives you what you want? Yeah. Check. That's number 2. What I'm doing is I need 3 to 5 because I can't just have a little evidence. I need overwhelming evidence that what I'm about to offer you is the solution to make your dreams come true. Whatever it is, whatever the deal is. And whatever the dream is, it might not be making, it's not like making them have the happiest life ever, but it's solving this one little area in their life. I'm a doctor. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. So I have to understand you. That's what the questioning process is. And then I just go through the cycle. So I set the table. I touch the heart where I uncover the needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives. I do the transitional statement where I upset the status quo. I give it to him. I take it away. Then I do the trial close where I ask him, hey, if I could do this, is there any reason you wouldn't want to do business with me? Okay, he says, no. Is there anybody else who needs to be involved in the decision? Nope. Great. Well, let me explain to you, brain, step 3, engage the mind, how this works. And if you agree with me, when I get done explaining to you, we'll do some business and solve your problem. How's that sound? Great. That's sales. That's it. You master that, and you can go out in the market. I promise you, you could drop me here in Nashville where, even if I knew nobody, and you assigned me an industry that I knew nothing about, I would quickly figure out who the players were, what their needs were, how to go find a solution. Somebody else has a need that getting those 2 people together solves. And now all of a sudden, both people feel good about me, and I begin to build my brand and build my network in the marketplace. Pretty soon, I become influential, and deals and opportunities, I get to that critical mass gravitational pull where things are coming to me.
Nobody wants to make that phone call. A tree fell in the middle of your house on top of the roof, and now you got to call your homeowner's insurance company. Now, I don't have anything to be worried about because my homeowner insurance is with Eric Stewart with Erie Insurance.
Eric Stewart not only is an amazing businessman, but he also happens to be my neighbor, so I know he's a great person. Me and Michael always insist on eating our own cooking. We're never going to recommend something that we don't personally use. We both use Eric Stewart, and his customer service is amazing, and he will beat any price from any other insurance agency, and we all need it as investors. We need the insurance in case those things happen. So check him out at ericinsures.com. That's Eric Stewart at ericinsures.com.
So as everything was falling apart in the mortgage business, and I told you we had a TV show, so the TV show that we had was actually the most popular TV show on this personal development network. So we were going up against people like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, and Dennis Waitley, and Les Brown, and just all these amazing, amazing people. And my partner Robert and I were the 2 class clowns. And so, but our show became really popular. And so the producer came to us and said, hey, we'd like to do more stuff with you guys. Great. He says, but I just got done selling this stock trading platform to another company, and I have a 5-year non-compete, and I can't do anything in personal finance, and you guys are in the personal finance space. That's okay. Can you do stuff with professionals? He said, yeah. I said, all right, well, then why don't we build a TV network for the mortgage industry? Because the mortgage industry is about to go through a difficult time. I know because I'm in the mortgage industry and I could feel it. It was just breaking. He said, so, I've lived long enough. San Francisco earthquake in 1989, stock market crash in 1987, the first Gulf War in 1990, obviously the dot-com thing. Whenever anything horrible happens, what do people do? They're glued to the TV. They want to know what the thought leaders, the talking heads have to say. I said, this industry is about to blow up. We're going to have the opportunity of a lifetime. If we get all of the thought leaders in the space to share their ideas on this TV network, we could probably sell this for $30, $40 a month, and people would happily pay for it. And so that became my job for a year, to go build that. And it was from 2007 to 2008. So the mortgage industry started to show some cracks, but hadn't imploded. The implosion happened in September 2008. So I wasn't really that connected in the mortgage industry. Even though I was in the mortgage industry, I didn't attend any of the trade shows. I wasn't part of any of that because I was just in my little niche where we were just doing investor business in the San Francisco Bay Area. But I had attended one conference. And at that one conference, I used the techniques that I'm talking about, and I went in, and I went to the conference. It was a National Association of Mortgage Brokers conference, and I went around and I looked for the room that had the most people in it. I didn't even care what they were talking about. I just wanted to know the room that had the most people in it, because I was interested in what these people were interested in. So it didn't matter what I was interested in. It mattered what they were interested in. And so it was really easy for me to poll, because I just walked around and go, oh, they're very interested in this class. I don't know who the guy in the front of the room is, but he's obviously a draw, and whatever he's talking about is obviously interesting. I need to be in this room if I want to understand this marketplace. And so I went and I sat down in the very front, and he's here fiddling with his PowerPoint, and his sweat is dripping down his brow. The room is filling up, and he can't get his PowerPoint to work. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching. And of course, I presented a lot and I knew how to do the PowerPoint. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I know what the problem is. So he's got an AV tech there who's helping him. And I go there and I say, hey, I think I can help you. He goes, no. We got this guy and it's just sweating. And the guy's unable to fix it and unable to fix it. Remember I told you luck plays a role? Right? I put myself in a position to be lucky, but I couldn't make him have a problem. I couldn't know that I was going to have the answer. I couldn't orchestrate that the guy that was trying to help him wouldn't know how to help him, and I would. That just happened. But because I put myself in a position to look for an opportunity to connect with this guy, I thought if I could just sit in the front of the room and make eye contact and nod and smile at him, maybe he'll notice me, and then afterwards I can go to his booth. He'll remember me, because what am I doing? Setting the table. I'm setting the table with him so that I can have an engaging conversation where I can touch the heart later and say, hey, Paul, tell me a little bit about your business and what you're doing. And I'm looking at needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives, so I can find a way to help him, so I can get into a relationship with him. Why? Because he's influential in the space, because he had the biggest room. If I can become friends with this guy, instead of me going around, dealing with all the less influential people in the conference, I can go find the guy who's the most influential person or one of the most influential people and get close to him. And then he can introduce me to everybody else who's influential, because usually the guy that has the fullest room is going to have influence with the other leaders. And I'm trying to get into the upper echelon of the leadership in this National Association of Mortgage Brokers. You see what I'm doing? It's all strategic. And so I'm sitting there, and finally, the room is full. He's 2 minutes over. He's sweating profusely. I'm like, I'm a professional. Trust me. I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night. So anyway, I fixed it. And then he sat there, and I did everything else I was going to do anyway, right? I sat there and I looked at him, but now we've already bonded, because I'm like the little kid that pulled a thorn out of the tiger's paw, right? And so I'm there, and he's there, and I'm bonding with him, and I'm looking at him, and then after he just came up to me, I was, thank you so much. Wow. And he goes, can I buy you lunch or whatever? Sure. Anyway, so that started a friendship. And then a year later, when I started this Mortgage Professional Television Network project, he introduced me to a guy who was even more influential, and this guy became my right-hand guy in recruiting all the faculty. And so in the space of less than a year, I went from being a nobody to being in the boardroom at the two largest mortgage company software companies, the largest trade association, the largest trade publication, and I convinced all of them to market our product. And I was a nobody 9 months later, or 9 months earlier. Actually, 9 months later, I was a nobody too, but that's a different discussion. You see what I'm saying? But 100% sales skills. It was just understanding that I had to build my brand first. I had to build my network. I had to understand kind of the demographic in whole, and then I had to go find the specific people who were in a position to help me find out what they needed, position what I was doing in a way to help them, and create a whole series of win-win deals that brought everybody together. Took about a year. Sadly, the lucky part, the flip side of lucky is what? Unlucky. So we are scheduled to launch on October 1st, 2008. Does anybody know what happened on September 16th of 2008? Fannie and Freddie went down. The mortgage industry imploded. The subprime crisis hit ahead. And the producer, who was a 70% owner, we could have built this company and sold it for $100 million. And the producer called. He goes, you know what? I'm out. I'm I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? This is a gift. This couldn't be any better. This is the best thing, because I'm the optimist, right? He goes, no, there's not going to be a mortgage industry. I'm like, whoa. Time out. Let's just think about this logically, brain, because your heart is placing a dumb order. We got to override. You're scared, but let's think about this. 5 years from now, no matter what happens, will there be houses? What do you think the chances are? Good, right? Number 2, will there still be people? Yeah. And will those people want to live in those houses? Yes. Now, we're in the middle of a financial crisis. Are all of those people suddenly going to be able to pay cash? Well, no. Then there's going to be a mortgage industry. It's just not going to be the same mortgage industry we've just had. It's going to completely reinvent itself, and we can be at the forefront. We can do licensing and education and bring thought leadership and talk about all the change, and we can shepherd this, and they will pay us happily $40 a month to have access to this proprietary information. No, I'm out. You sucker. He didn't do it. So sometimes it doesn't go your way, right? What'd Tom Brady say? Losing sucks. I spent a year commuting from San Jose, California to Dallas, Texas every week, living in a stupid Marriott Courtyard hotel all by myself. It was horrible, right? I mean, it's just like horrible. Because I had a chance to go make $15 million for my half. We sell for $100 million. Robert and I owned 30. It would have been $30 million. My half would have been 15. I thought if I can go make $15 million in 2 years, I'll pay that price. That's probably worth it. And we could have done it, but it didn't happen. Now, I learned a lot, and I met a lot of great people, and it was all fun. So sometimes, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Losing sucks. But if you want to have a chance to win a world championship, you got to play the game. So we've had some wins, right? I told you about our development project, big win. Our radio show's doing pretty well. We're busy working on something where we think we have a chance to change the world. In 2013, actually in 2012, the government passed the Jobs Act. And the Jobs Act was designed to free up the flow of capital. After the 2008 crisis, I felt like there was going to be a big opportunity in private capital because I was in the capital business. So, money was going into Wall Street. It was being sold in. People were buying mortgage-backed securities, and the mortgage-backed securities were funding the mortgage business that I was in. When all of that died, the flow of money into real estate died. All the air came out of the jump house. Prices dropped until they could pump it back up again, which they did. And I thought that there would be a huge opportunity in private capital. And in 2013, they finally got the regulation. In 2012, they passed the Jobs Act, which allowed purveyors of private placements. So instead of having a publicly listed security, you could have a private placement, a private security, a private deal. Like if somebody wanted to build this complex here, and they came and they said, okay, I'm going to go raise, I don't know, $8 or $10 million from investors, and I'm going to go to Billy Brown and get myself a loan for another 12 or 16 million and build this complex and rent it out, and we'll own it for 5 years and then sell it for a profit. That's the deal, and we'll split that with our investors. That's a syndication. So in order to do that, though, they need to be able to get the loans, and there was no loans available, so you'd have to fund the whole deal with private capital. Anyway, we thought there'd be a big opportunity to do that. So we started teaching people syndication. Because now, in the old days, you couldn't advertise private deals to investors. You had to have a pre-existing relationship. So people would join golf clubs. If you watch American Greed, now, okay, the American Greed, they're the bad guys. But the things they did to get into relationships and meet rich people, that stuff works. And so they would go do that, and then they would raise the money, and they would steal it. But you can raise the money and actually do a real deal and actually help people. You can get rich helping the rich get richer. And that's okay too, right? Because the power of syndication is this. For those of you that are investing, this is a little plug for syndication, so full disclosure. But the thing about syndication is when you're an investor, most people invest this way. They go to work, they earn a living, they pay their taxes, they live like a pauper, they save their money, they invest their money in little investments, And over time, the little investments grow, and it grows, and it grows. And at some point down the road, they're financially independent. At some point, they become wealthy. So what if you could just go to people who've already saved money and raise millions and go from here to there really fast? Would that be better? That's what syndication allows you to do. There are people out there who earn more money than you do, who save more money than you do, who are busy doing what they do to earn money, and they need help putting it to work. And if you know how to make money in real estate, if you know how to find deals, then you can help those people solve their problem, which is, I got too much money. Yeah, some of us don't have that problem, right? That's why we're here. But some of those people, they have that problem. You talk to Robert Kiyosaki in the cruise last year. Robert Kiyosaki goes, look, you can't talk to people like me and think that they're like you, because they're not. My problem is not your problem. My problem is I have too much money. Too much. Millions of dollars coming in. It's like, I don't know what to do with it. How many of you would like to have more of those people in your life, right? So that's what syndication is all about. And the key to making syndication work, or any deal making work, is sales skills. So with all that said, I just got the 5-minute card. I told you I was going to ask you questions. I totally didn't. I just monologued. Sorry about that. But I'm happy to talk with you. So a couple things I just want to share. If you're interested in learning more about all of the different things we do, I'm going to make it super, super easy. If I didn't bring flyers, I'm just going to give you one thing you can do. MMIG at Real Estate Guys. You're going to get carpal tunnel typing that into your computer. I'm sorry. If you'll send an email to that address, we'll tell you how you can get the podcast, the newsletter, find out about our events. In June, I'm going to be teaching a 2-day sales training workshop based on the stuff that I do and the stuff that I've learned. A lot of role play. Who's been? Okay, so if you're interested in that, talk to Dave and Gina. Seth, have you been?
Not to sales.
Not to sales. Okay, so those two have been. Raise your hands again. Okay, so if you're interested in what it's all about and whether it's a good use of your time and money, talk to them. Got the Summit at Sea coming up. On the front end of the Summit at Sea, we're doing a 2-day conference called The Future of Money and Wealth. You guys might have heard a thing called Bitcoin and the Federal Reserve and the dollar falling and gold. And I guess the stock market's been having some hiccups, primarily because they're afraid of interest rates rising. There's a lot of things going on. Americans only know how to think of the world in terms of dollars. The rest of the world doesn't think that way. As Americans, we're used to the American dollar and the American economy being the centerpiece and the driving engine of the global economy. That's changing. China's actually bigger than us in many ways, and they and Russia are working together to undermine the dollar's role. If you earn, borrow, save, or denominate wealth in any way, shape, or form in only the US dollar, and something happens to the dollar, think about that. What that would be like for you. I got blindsided in 2008 because I did not understand how Wall Street affected Main Street. I thought I had isolated myself from Wall Street because I didn't invest in stocks. And yet my business was destroyed and my real estate portfolio was destroyed because I did not understand the bond market. So anybody that's been listening to the show for any length of time knows for the last 10 years, I have been obsessed with macroeconomics, currencies, bond markets, and what's going on, because at the rate of change right now, you have to look further out the horizon. And the key to doing that is being around smart people. So we got Robert Kiyosaki, Chris Martinson, Peter Schiff, Brian London, just a whole bunch of people, some of whom you may know, some of whom you don't. But we put them on stage and we let them talk to each other and we sit there and listen. And so what we're going to do this year, Seth, which is really cool, is for the weeks leading up to the event, we're going to be sending out tutorials, if you will, recommended reading, things to get everybody up to a baseline of understanding. So when you're sitting in the room, you kind of understand what's going on. And there's other stuff. So if you send an email to this address, we'll tell you all about it. I don't know, I can do questions, or we probably have to be done, whatever you want.
Hey. Let's take 5 or 10 minutes. I know you guys all came to hear Russ, and I'm sure you have a million questions, so we'll just open it up. So hand up if you got a question, and I'll bring the mic to you so everybody can hear.
Do you think Bitcoin is going to be around a year from now, 2 years from now?
I think blockchain will be.
Blockchain.
I don't know if Bitcoin will, but I'm going to this conference to hang out with people that are a lot smarter than me in that whole thing. I had a funny experience at the Summit at Sea 4 years ago. Peter Schiff, Simon Black, and Robert Kiyosaki, my partner Robert, and me and our wives were all sitting at dinner in Puerto Rico. And Simon is trying to explain to Kiyosaki and Schiff and me about Bitcoin. And all the old guys were like, it doesn't make any sense, doesn't make any sense. Well, so none of us bought it except Simon. So if you follow Simon's notes from the field, he sent out a thing a little while ago. He goes, look, I made a lot of money in Bitcoin, but I'm here to tell you, I understand I was lucky. I think the concept of blockchain, yes. The Perth Mint, which is the Australian gold mint, the Royal Canadian Mint, which is Canada's mint, like the U.S. mint for those countries, they both announced they're coming out with gold-backed cryptocurrencies. That's substantial. It's one thing when private industry does it. It's another thing when government institutions do it. And those are two countries that have largely been friends to the U.S., but Bitcoin showed that the world is looking for an alternative to U.S. dollars. The dollar has been falling, while Bitcoin has been rising, and gold has been rising. And there's a lot more going on. So I think, and I don't know, but something happened in 2017 that triggered an explosive growth in Bitcoin and crypto. And I think those things were largely geopolitical, I think, because it was just more people trying to get in than get out. And China has just cracked down hard. South Korea is talking about cracking down. So there was a crisis in Saudi Arabia. Maybe you read some of that, where the young prince, the 32-year-old MBS, I remember him, mortgage-backed securities. I don't remember what his real name is, but they call him MBS. Anyway, he basically shook down all of the rich princes and extorted billions of dollars from them. And Saudi Arabia is working to diversify their economy away from oil, which has been like 95% oil, 97% oil forever. They're talking about a public offering for Aramco and all that. Anyway, so it's possible that countries like Venezuela that were falling apart, countries like China where there's strict capital controls and people are trying to get their money out, places like Saudi Arabia where people had a lot of money and they were trying to get it out and hide it. I think all of that could have been pushing into Bitcoin and drove it way up. And once they get in and come back out again, well, this is what happens. So I still don't get Bitcoin. I mean, I understand the appeal of having privacy. I don't understand the concept of, a huge energy drain to create a stream of code that clearly is not private. So I don't know. Blockchain, yes. The idea that more information and transactions are going to be handled through blockchain technology, I think that's here to stay. How the whole cryptocurrency thing works out. I mean, if you had a choice right now between buying a gold-backed crypto or a nothing-backed crypto, which would you choose? Yeah, so that's kind of why we're doing this conference, because we are living at a really thrilling time, but there will be change. And if you're not ready for the change, you can be on the wrong end of it. History says that whether it's the Depression or the 2008 crisis or whatever, the .com or even what happened, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in chaos, but they're the ones that keep their wits about them, that I think probably have a mastermind group of some kind that they can brainstorm with, and that are not afraid to take action contrary to the crowd. Instead of waiting for things to show up, they trust their judgment and they act. And part of that is being prepared. And so that's why we do what we do, is to help people be prepared. I don't think that, if you're depending upon a 2-minute answer, a soundbite that some financial pundit is going to give you on a TV or a podcast is going to help you understand. We think it takes a lot more than that. That's why we do a 2-day conference, and then the summit is to help people who are inclined to really go deep, have meaningful conversations, get a lot of perspectives. But yeah, I think blockchain and crypto will be here. Whether it's Bitcoin, I don't know. I mean, Netscape didn't survive. Pets.com didn't survive. There's a lot of tech things that start out at the front end of a revolution that don't make the turn. Who's going to be the Amazon out of all the different cryptos? I don't know.
So with your worldwide knowledge of seeing what's going on the macro level and micro level, what do you see as the most pressing need in the terms of real estate and real estate space where, we could help solve that problem?
We being private investors?
Private investors, real estate investors, lending. What's needed out there with the changing in economy?
Well, I think that the same thing I've always thought is that at some point the inherent flaws in the paper asset system are going to be made manifest. We have been on a 30-year interest rate decline. If any of you are old enough to remember Paul Volcker jacking interest rates up to 20+%, resetting basically the dollar. The dollar collapsed. In 1971, August 15th, I remember I was watching the Ed Sullivan Show, and Richard Nixon came on and told everybody he was shutting the gold window and basically defaulted, because you may not know this if you're younger, but back then, prior to 1971, foreign countries could bring in their dollars, their treasuries, and exchange them and get gold from the U.S. and take the gold. Americans weren't allowed to own gold. That didn't get lifted until 1974. But prior to that, so we had this giant drain of gold coming out of the United States. Nixon defaulted on that. The dollar collapsed. Gold went from $42 to over $800. It was the Bitcoin of its time. And we had inflation. I was working at a gas station, and I remember pretty much every week we were raising the prices. It started out at 35 cents a gallon, and it got up to over $1, and within a year. I mean, it was just crazy. So I think that after Volcker came in, jacked interest rates up to over 20%, and then it reset the dollar. They cut the petrodollar deal, which they had to create a demand for all the excess dollars. So they went to Saudi Arabia, and they cut a deal in 1974, in July 1974, and said all oil transactions need to be conducted in dollars. So now people were dumping dollars because they couldn't get gold for them, but now they had to have them in order to do oil, and oil was still is the number one commodity in global trade. So that propped up the dollar. That was the era of the petrodollar, and that's been going on for some time. What we offered in exchange was we put Saudi Arabia under our wing. We said, we're going to protect your kingdom. You're the leader of OPEC. You're going to kind of toe the American line in exchange for our protection, and you need to make sure that the dollar thing is protected. Saddam Hussein came out, and when the euro was introduced, and said, "Hey, everybody, let's use euros." And all of a sudden, there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that nobody ever found, but Saddam Hussein's gone, and so is the idea of a petro-euro. So there's a lot of things that go on in the world. So at some point, though, after however many years of being zero interest rates, at some point, the weakness of our $20 trillion in debt is going to be made known. And I think what happened in the stock market was designed to push people into bonds, which would push interest rates back down because interest rates had been creeping up. The federal government cannot afford high interest rates. Right now, it's like 3%. The difference between 2 and 3%, like our interest bill in the U.S., just interest on the $20 trillion in debt is about $500 billion a year. If interest rates were to go from where they are, say from 2.5 to 5, then it would be $1 trillion a year, which is like half of our budget. It would be all of our income because we're running $1 trillion deficit. So all of that bodes poorly for paper assets. And so we're starting to see some skittishness in the paper asset markets. So this has been one of the most volatile weeks ever in terms of the stock market. So to answer your question, Billy, with that backdrop, is there are people out there right now who don't know how to invest any other way but in the stock market. And if you've learned how to make money in real estate, there are people out there who would love to have their money in real estate. They just don't know how to do it. They either don't have the time, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the inclination. But if you can make it easy for them, which is what syndication is all about, so at the risk of sounding self-serving, I mean, we do what we do, we teach what we teach for a reason. We think it's the answer. We think the most important thing that real estate investors can do is share the opportunity with people, and the best way to do that is through syndication. I mean, you don't have to go out and raise millions of dollars, you know. If you're successfully investing in real estate, help your friends and family get on the train. Help them get involved. Help them do it. Real estate is local. Real estate is small. Real estate is mom and pop. It's one deal at a time. You can create these little alliances. You know, you look at these things like these bankers that just got fined for manipulating the gold market. And you probably heard many years ago about the LIBOR scandal where the banks were colluding and manipulating interest rates, which affect everybody. In fact, everybody's mortgage in this room that's indexed to LIBOR was affected by that scandal. Of course, to your favor because they were bringing the interest rates down, but they weren't doing it to help you. That was a collateral benefit. They were doing it to goose the value of their bonds. My point is there's all kinds of shenanigans, and usually the mom and pop investors are getting fleeced in the paper asset casinos. But if something goes sideways with real estate, what does the government do? What do the banks do? What does industry do? Where do all the voters live? Where are all the pitchforks, or in the case of the United States, AR-15s? Where are they? They're in homes. So real estate gets propped up in a financial crisis. We've seen that. We know that. It's not theory. We know that to be true. So if you're out there playing in financial markets where traders are whipsawing people in order to extract profits, you're on the losing end of a game you can't compete in. If you can show people how to get involved in real estate, where if something goes sideways, the powers that be are going to move heaven and earth to prop it back up again, it's a much safer place to be. It's a much more stable asset class. So to me, the answer to the question is, learn to be a successful real estate investor and then share it with other people and help them get on board. And I think right now, more than ever, people are open to it because they're realizing that the game they're trying to play in the stock market is rigged. It's all good until it isn't. Bitcoin was all good until it isn't. The stock market's all good until it's not. But real estate has basically been all good. You know, we had the 2008 crisis, which wasn't a real estate problem. It was a bond problem. And even then, they did everything they could to prop it back up. And of course, the 2008 crisis was a boon for real estate investors, right? Millions of people lost their homes and became what? Tenants. Rents went up. Values were down. Cap rates were great. I mean, now everybody's piling into the space, at least in multifamily, it's a little bit harder. But there's still lots of great niches. So our buddy Gene Garino doing residential assisted living. I mean, that's a crazy space. These guys are doing campgrounds. Who would ever thought campgrounds? Self-storage. People living in houses, now living in apartments, need a place to store all their crap, right? So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot. And you know, because you've got people bringing you deals all the time. Yeah. So the key is share those deals with people and help them get their money out of Wall Street and invest it in Main Street with less middlemen.
Hey, thanks for learning with us today on the show.
We would love to meet you at one of our free monthly meetups in Middle Tennessee.
Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing on this channel.
Check out another awesome investing video here.